Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Uh, hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Martinez, and this is
Oh, I'm Dryden, aka the Curly Muffin.
Carly Muffin from, as you know it, from TikTok. And today we're here to talk about how autism crosses with trauma.
hmm Yeah, I'm really excited because this is like it's and autism and trauma is so intertwined, and people forget that like a lot of things that autistic people do are results of trauma because just being autistic in a world of neurotypicals just enables us for lots of trauma. And so far, every autistic person that I've met has trauma in some way, and which is really sad. But you know.
Yeah, it's pretty sad because when you think about it, no matter what age group you're in, even as a child on the spectrum, you could be easily exposed to vulnerable things. Like someone could say something bad to you, like your mom could say your father doesn't love you and stuff like that. And even words like that could traumatize you.
And also, like, this is like another example. Like, kids in school, they're being bullied and picked on and stuff like that. Like, coming like to like a neurotypical, it can hurt, but it might not have like everlasting damage. Whereas you do that to an autistic person, they have a higher chance of remembering that to this day. And I honestly resonate with that. Like, things people said to me in first grade, I still remember, and it still hurts. And what they said like traumatized me and made me change the kind of person like I am and stuff like that, which is like really, really, really sad.
I could really sympathize with what you're saying because I don't know if it's our long term memory because I heard that people on the spectrum could have long term memories or if that's like a myth.
hmm
That's
i
like
I totally have long-term memory. I was just gonna say that.
it's kind of like that when it comes to post traumatic distress and like autism, it's like we have these emotional attachments to good things and bad things when it comes to what people say, and it sticks to us emotionally
Mhm.
as we go on with our lives, and it's always around us, there, right and left.
Yeah, it's honestly, I can go into later about how masking actually relates to trauma because I had a discussion in an autism group that I was in, and like we were just talking about trauma and stuff like that. And masking really actually results from trauma, which is so sad because masking is a thing that autistic people do. Like a majority of autistic people mask, which is like really disappointing, really, really, really sad how just society treats us as a whole and acts like we're like just not deserving of basic human respect and treating us like we're like aliens or something like that when it's literally just our brain is wired differently. Like they see us as a monster and I'm like, I'm not. I promise. Like I'm a good person. I just perceive things a lot differently than people and I can't always communicate the way that I want to communicate.
Exactly. That's what we've all been saying for quite a while, that we're not like a defect from vaccines. We're just your average day people. We're just a bit different in a social way. And
Yeah.
it's like I'm not that different from you. And I kind of have these social quirks here and there where I make social mistakes. Who
hmm
doesn't? But at the end of the day, we're all human.
Yeah. Like I I truly don't understand how people just see us differently, because there have been multiple times where I meet someone and like they treat me like normal. But the second that I say I'm autistic, all of a sudden they change their perception of me. Whether that be talking to me like I'm a child, which is that's a whole other thing of autism being infantilized. Like it's disgusting that that happens. They'll talk to me like I'm a child or like I'm stupid and stuff like that. And I'll be like, I understand what you're saying. I can obviously perceive when they change it. Like they act like I won't be able to perceive it. But I know how people react when I tell them I'm autistic because it's always like they talk to me like I'm a child, they like just completely ignore me, or they just ask like a lot of insensitive questions and act like I'm inferior to them. And it's really frustrating because just me telling them like, hey, my brain is wired differently, all of a sudden they think I'm stupid or dumb, and I'm like, that's not me. Like they just believe all the stereotypes, and those stereotypes are so detrimental to autistic people and nobody talks about it. How people like put up the stereotypes of autism, and then when they meet someone like me, they're like, oh yeah, you don't follow the stereotypes, and I'm like, I'm diagnosed, and they're like, no, that's impossible, and I'm like, no, actually these stereotypes that you believe are actually the ones that are hurting us, you know. So that's just a little ramble on people treating us differently just because our brain is wired differently.
Yeah, just because of label, because like I don't know if you've ever been in a special ed class in your past school career. You never been in one?
um no, but I was like, I've been in the classroom a few times because my school had this thing called Best Buddies, where people would be friends with the disabled kids. I don't like saying special needs because it disgusts me. Um, so I like was able to perceive like how they're treated and stuff like that. And just, this is like totally random, but I know a lot of people who are like, I would never bully an autistic person. They're talking about the disabled kids that are in the classes, but when they come to someone like me, I'm a freak. I'm weird. I'm crazy. And they're like, no, I wouldn't bully someone autistic, but I will bully you. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. If you're saying you're not going to bully autistic people, that includes me. And like neurotypical is just like, they can only handle so much autism. They can only handle the autism that they think is valid or right. But the second that you don't follow that, you're seen as a freak and weird, and you get labeled as like a band kid, a choir kid. You know, on TikTok, how they say, like, oh, you smell, this is if like mayonnaise and water were a person. Like they say all these things, and I'm like, this is ableist. I don't think you realize like these jokes that you think are funny, you're actually potentially bullying someone who has autism. And those same people claim, I would never bully someone who has autism. It's so hypocritical, and it infuriates me. It infuriates me.
Just to add more to what you're saying, I really get what you're trying to say because I could tell you for a fact that people have stated in the past throughout my school career, they said they respect and are want to be friends with individuals in the special ed classrooms. And in the past, back in middle school and elementary, I was in those special ed classrooms. And from what I recall, people tried to act nice around us, but whenever we came in the public or in classroom, they didn't want to be associated with us at all. Like whenever I'm hanging around with my supposed friend, he would tell me not to stand next to him, and I would have to walk behind him because he didn't want people to think we're associated with each other. Because being involved with someone that's in a special ed class is apparently back then a bad thing, including in high school, and people use it as a slur and as a joke when they tell you you're in special ed, bro. It's really hurtful, and it makes it very hard for me to feel comfortable with me getting my accommodations without anyone judging.
It's absolutely disgusting how neurotypicals treat us. Like, not just like everyone on the spectrum. I mean, everyone on the spectrum, we're all treated like absolute shit. That is something that we all have in common, you know, and we vary with like our traits and stuff like that, and like how much of something that we do, but we have in common is we get treated differently for something we can't control. And these people act like, oh yeah, you know, I'm gonna mention like a lot TikTok because I've seen the most ableism on that app, which is part of the reason why I've kind of stopped posting about it. But I've seen people be like, oh yeah, when someone says, oh, it's not okay to bully someone, be like, bullying helps the personality, it helps them grow. And
What the
I'm like,
hell?
what the hell do you mean? Helps them grow? And if someone says, I'll be like, you know, people who are autistic have a higher chance of committing suicide, and you saying those horrible words and bullying them, that does not add to their character. That can make them go over the edge. And there is a connection between autism and depression because, you know, with trauma and stuff like that, like we're talking about right now, being treated like absolute shit, you start thinking that there's something wrong with you. And having autism, you kind of connect the two, and you're like, well, in my personal experience, I'd be like, okay, there is something wrong with me. There's not people, it's not wrong with everyone, it's me. and I'm the problem, and therefore I need to get rid of the problem, aka me. And it's heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking that people think bullying adds to their character and personality when it's the complete opposite. It doesn't do anything. It makes someone struggle more. And these people just laugh about it. They just laugh about it. They say one insult and they're going to forget about it in like an hour.
You
Meanwhile,
know,
it's going to stick with us to the day we die, possibly. Like, I still remember things said to me in elementary school. I'm 19 in 2 weeks. Elementary school, aka being 7, 8. I still remember that stuff. When I know those kids have completely forgot about what they said to me. They don't remember, but I remember.
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. It means a lot, especially when there could be kids out there right now on the spectrum, or anyone right now that could be going through the same or similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
And even myself, I shared some experiences I still remember growing up. This one time, I don't know why I always remember this, but I always remember this one time back in drama class. I was paying attention in class. This other kid kept poking me with a paper clip on my right shoulder. Then the other kid, his other buddy, threw paper balls at my back, and I kept asking them to stop several times. And it's like they didn't stop, so I had to tell. And then I got a reputation of being called the Charlie disease back in middle school. So it's like that's a bit harsh back then.
What the? Why are kids so mean? I am so sorry you went through that. That is absolutely horrible. I remember kind of similar experience when I was in choir. There were these 2 girls that would kick me on my back, and I turn around, they'd be like, I didn't do anything, and they just continuously kicked my back. And because of that, if someone touches me from the back, I flinch. And I tell everyone who I know, like, don't come from me from the back. Do not touch me on my back if I cannot see you, because I will just like freak out, because it's a trauma response, you know. Them kicking my back made me realize, like, oh, shit happens. Oh, sorry, stuff happens behind my back, and it's it's traumatizing. I don't like anything coming from my back, because I'm like, in my brain, that's like, what if they're gonna kick you? What if it's this person? What are they gonna do that? And yeah, I that happened to me in middle school too, and it's still like response that hasn't gotten any better, and it's still the same, and I think I'm gonna have that for a really long time. And luckily all the people around me understand, like, hey, do not come from behind me. And I always say they can come for me from the side, or if they're going to come for me from the back, they have to say, like, hey, I'm here, I'm going to do this, is it okay? And I have to ask permission, because I will just honestly have like sensory overload. It is way
That
too much to have someone come for me from my back. It just, I relive those memories, and I wish I could get rid of them, but I feel like they're forever going to be in my head. You know, anything coming from me from the back is bad, and they're going to try to hurt me in some way.
uh, it takes a brave person to share that, and I'm sure a lot of people resonate with what you're saying,
Yeah.
especially those autistic children that could have gotten severely bullied as a kid, and those traumatic responses will later on affect them. For example, what happened to you at the choir class that you took, and also for me, I'm not comfortable getting a haircut, and anyone touching the back of my neck whenever they give me a haircut, because I don't know what happened, but apparently I must have got picked on, and so I must have hit my back neck area, and I don't know. I just had this natural trauma response to, like, kind of like a cat, where you touch the cat the wrong way and you just flinch.
Yep. Yep. I relate to that too. I'll literally just be like, what, you know. I'm sorry that happened to you. It's really sad that we both have a similar experience and we're both autistic. That really does say something about society and how they treat us, and how pretty much every autistic person has a similar experiences about how people treated us. And I just I just wish people understood, like, first of all, bullying is never okay in any circumstances, but to realize if someone's autistic, that this bullying isn't just going to be like a quick one and done thing. Like, it is going to live in their memory and they're going to relive it over and over and over and over again. It's gonna change how they perceive themselves, which is really sad. And these people need to think about that. Like, we live in our memories. Our heads replay these things over and over again. And that's the same with trauma. You live it over and over and over again. And meanwhile, these people just forget about it. They just forget about it. It was just like, oh, let me do this. It's funny. Haha. They forget about it in a day. Meanwhile, us were like, I cannot believe that just happened. Like, it's my fault. It's my fault. They did this because it's my fault, which is totally not okay because it isn't our fault at all. It is these people's fault, but we turn it and blame ourselves. And it's really sad.
Yes, exactly. It's really sad. And unfortunately, what kids in high school, middle school, or anyone in general need to understand is that there's this old saying that probably has already been said multiple times, but words and actions have a lot of power. You might say or do something you might not acknowledge could really affect a person later on.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you think about it, the other person on the other end might not realize it. And you're on the other end. And if they felt your amount of trauma and pain, then it might be a different story.
Yeah. If if only these people like could actually like just live with our experiences for just 5 minutes. If they actually understood like all the pain that we going through and all the experiences that led up to this point, if they were actually able to live inside our heads and listen to all the things that our head says and stuff like that, they most likely would not do it because neurotypicals can't handle the thoughts that we have. Meanwhile, for us, it's all that we know. This is all that we know. Meanwhile, neurotypicals can't fathom the fact of stuff like that happening to them. And they think like, oh, we're fine. Meanwhile, I always have to worry about the fact like, oh, how is this person going to react if I tell them I have autism? How's my friends going to react? How is my family going to react? How are they going to treat me? Like, are they going to treat me bad? Are they going to treat me good? Are they going to treat me like I'm a human? Are they going to treat me like I'm inferior to them? Like, a lot of thoughts go on in your head when you have autism. You're constantly thinking about the fact of how do you act? How do you
And
act around these people?
and how do you analyze everything in the room and what people say or what you want to say? And it's like a never ending circle of thoughts that go around your head asking you what to do, pretty much, huh?
Yeah, and this leads to masking, and trauma, because I can go on for an experience of how trauma relates to how I mask now. So, my strongest special interest that I ever had was for Melanie Martinez. And when I say it was strong, it was strong. I had thousands of dollars worth of her merch. I had like a really big fan page. And during the times when my depression was the strongest, her music and everything relating to her, oh shit, sorry, everything that was relating to her helped me. And I remember I would info dump about her all the time. I wasn't diagnosed back then, so I just thought, hey, this is normal. People talk about stuff like this all the time. They don't. It was obviously autism. Like, no neurotypical talks about something for like hours on end, and it's the only thing that helps them. So I would info dump about her all the time. And people at school would say, shut up. You are so annoying. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say, and multiple variations of that. Now, that trauma and how it impacts me today, I cannot info dump about anything at all, no matter how hard I try. Because the trauma of people telling me to shut up and that I don't have anything good to say at all impacted me. And it's also affected my ability to have special interests as well because I'm like, oh, if I get into this, it's going to be all that I want to talk about and nobody wants to listen to what I have to say, which is so sad because special interests is what helps autistic people. And the one thing that helped me, I got ridiculed for and treated like I was this disgusting thing when it was the only thing that was helping me when people were treating me terribly.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of courage and a lot of grit to be able to share something like that, especially when there could be people in school right now, in middle school, high school, or whatever grade they're in, watching this video that could benefit them, what they're going through. And even myself and a lot of people, they find things to escape because, in a way, mentally, we're always trying to escape our troubles through something, whether it's music, food, a talent, or a hobby. Like I always use writing to escape whatever I'm trying to do and write my thoughts down or jog some memories.
Yeah, we, you know, okay, I'm gonna swear a bit. I'm gonna say us autistic people go through a lot of shit, like blank out, a lot of shit that we have to go through. But it's really nice how our brains are able to latch on to something that just gives us happiness. And I'm happy that that is a part of autism, because if we couldn't latch our brains onto something that made us happy, I feel like it'd be a lot horrible for us. Like just we don't have anything to cope with. And special interests, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And it's sad that neurotypicals will never be able to experience it. They will never have that connection to something, and just like talking about that thing will make you smile, spending hours upon research of doing things and you just trying to find out every little bit of information about that. And it just makes you happy. And it's so pure that we do that. Like, it is so pure and like not bad at all that we do that. And society treats us like it's bad. Like, what is bad about us finding happiness in something? Happiness in something. Like, we will do all the research in the world, and us talking about it, thinking about it, dreaming about it, collecting it, it just makes us happy. And people see that as like a bad thing. And I'm like, how is it bad that something makes us happy? It's not all the same thing. Every autistic person has a different special interest. It's not a one-time thing. They happen multiple times in your life. Like, ever since like you were a kid, apparently my first special interest was Blue's Clues. I did not know that. Like, I knew that I liked some TV shows, but my older sister told me that when Blue's Clues was on, nobody was allowed to talk to me and no one was allowed to do anything, because if someone were to talk to me, I'd start crying because I just wanted to watch Blue's Clues. And that's so pure. That is so pure that I loved Blue's Clues that much. That like every like week I would just sit down and watch Blue's Clues. And I had a lot of like Blue's Clues toys and stuff like that. And they made me really happy. And like even all these years later, I'll sometimes just watch Blue's Clues and I can feel like that little child of me like smiling, and I get like this warm feeling because I knew at one point in my life that was like my everything. And even going back to old special interests, it just brings a spark of joy, and it's so pure. And anyway, special interests are just amazing, and I'm really happy that autistic people have that ability. It's honestly magic. So
It is pure magic, especially when they're going through a lot, through people that might not understand what you're going through emotionally and mental wise, when you're trying to understand yourself and your special interests and your social style, because it's kind of like this alphabetical thing where like you could be introvert, ambivert, or an extrovert. I kind of identify as an ambivert myself, but because I'm kind of like either one. Some days I'm an introvert, some days I'm an extrovert, so it kind of varies.
yeah, I relate to that. I used to be the most introverted person ever, like so introverted. And then I got a job at Target. Absolutely horrible management, but I learned to be a bit more extroverted. And then like as my when I became an upperclassman, I started having friends and stuff like that, and I turned into more of an extrovert. And like I was, how do you say it? Is it ambivert? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think that's how you say it.
Okay, I'm really bad at pronouncing stuff. But some days I'm an introvert, because I like being by myself sometimes. Like, I like being by myself. I know how to entertain myself. And other days, I love communicating with people, and I just like have this healthy mix. And in quarantine, I've kind of lost a lot of my extrovertedness. And once things start opening up again, I'm going to have to reteach myself how to communicate with people, which is it's going to be a lot, but that's just autism things. Neurotypicals get this stuff like right off the bat. Meanwhile, we have to teach ourselves and be like, okay, this is what you say, this is not what you say, this is how you act in this situation, you do this body language, you do this facial like movements and stuff like that. So
I get what you mean. It's like that one moment where that would actually make a funny TikTok video where you like one where you have like a little hoodie like this, and you're like, when I leave the house.
I was coming up with there was like this funny joke that I made. I was thinking about making a TikTok, but I don't think people would understand. Um, so the CDC like recommended like I think like a month ago that you wear like 3 masks, and I was like I was gonna make a TikTok like I have to wear 4 masks, and I take off my 3 masks and I just point to my face because autism and masking. My mom understood it and she laughed a bit, but I feel like with how ableist TikTok is, they would straight up call me the R word and send me death threats, which kind of happens now when I post autism
Oh my
videos.
god,
Yeah,
that's
that's
terrible.
if you've like noticed my account, I haven't really posted anything. That's because TikTok is so ableist. Like any video that I see like discussing like autism or disabilities, there's just so much ableist comments, and I'm like, wow, it is not safe for me to post on here anymore, is it? Like, I don't think it's safe for me to talk about something anymore, which is like really sad.
Yeah, that's really sad because it tells you a lot about the world and certain people, but at the same time, I'm not trying to be like a pessimist, if that's a real word, pessimistic,
Yeah, yeah,
optimistic. That's the word.
yeah.
Where there's still good people, but it could be even worse. It could be Twitter.
Oh my god.
Twitter's like a big civil war going on over there.
I know. I don't like going on Twitter. I go on like once a week and I just scroll until I see something problematic. I'll just be like, okay, funny tweet, funny photo, and I see something ableist. I'm like, okay, I am done on here. This is why I do not go on here. Um, but like back to TikTok, there's so much ableism. Have you like seen the whole like Helen Keller debate? Have you seen like what you don't know?
I did not know.
People are saying that Helen Keller wasn't real because
What
she
the
was
hell?
blind and deaf.
There was like a whole interview with her. How did?
Yeah, there is so much ableism in there, and they're like, you know what, it's impossible she was alive because she was blind and deaf. And people are like, you do realize you're saying that people who are blind or deaf can't do anything? They're like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, even though that's ableism that doesn't directly affect me, it's still infuriating because I'm like, it's just they're basically saying that anyone disabled can't do like big things. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's infuriating how people are questioning a disabled person's existence. There is so much wrong with doing that. There is so much wrong.
It's completely wrong.
It's so messed up. Like, what do these people gain from saying that? What do they gain from saying that? Like, they're gonna be like, she isn't real and forget about it. And then somebody who's blind or deaf sees that or hears or sees that and they're like, oh, oh, you know, like it's upsetting.
Totally, it's upsetting, and they don't even account and realize that she could use clay to communicate what she's doing. That's what her trainer taught her, right?
Mm-hmm. And like a lot of the ableist comments come from her, like being a pilot on a plane, but you know, she was with another pilot and it was only for a bit short of time. It wasn't like she did like a airplane for like traveling and stuff like that. Like it wasn't like that. It was just like she had another pilot and it was only for 20 minutes, you know. That is still a big accomplishment. That is huge. And people are still saying that's not possible. That's not real. I don't think it happened, so therefore she isn't real. And people are like, I've done research. I don't think she's real. And I'm like, if you search up Helen Keller, there's going to be so much information about her. Like, this woman was real. She was real. And questioning her existence solely on the fact because she's disabled, that is ableism in its moment. And people just are like, no, it's not ableist. And I'm like, then what is ableism? If that's not ableism, what is ableism? Just people who are not disabled acting like they know what ableism is firsthand. And I'm like, you will never understand it. If you're not disabled, you are not going to understand ableism. You're not going to understand it.
Exactly, and it's like people come to conclusions very quickly on information they probably don't know of, and whenever you point out stuff that they're not aware of, they back down and they try to just spit out insults or get angry, and
Yep.
it's like y'all gotta know your facts before you come at me, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really, people can't handle being called out for ableism. They'll be like, I'm not being ableist. And you're like, well, you actually are. They're like, you know what? You're stupid. And I'm like, dude, you were the one being offensive, not me. You can't insult me because I was just telling you like what you're doing is offensive.
That's exactly right. You gotta just tell them straight up. I'm just stating facts, buddy. I'm not here to insult you. Just stating facts.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You know, we've done a bit of like work towards about ableism and stuff like that. Like for like a very short moment, TikTok understood what ableism is. But if you know TikTok, you know they take any word and run it through the mud. So for like a very short minute, people were calling out ableism. And I was like, yes, finally. But then you got the white saviors. And what did they start to do? They started to say, this is ableist on something that wasn't ableist. And then on real ableist videos, you're like, nah, this isn't ableist. And I'm like, of course. Of course. They've made ableism a joke. They really have made ableism a joke. Like it's disgusting. It's sad. It infuriates me because I'm like, you took something serious and you ruined it. Something that disabled people have been trying to get like the word out, you know, and they just ruined it.
Yeah, it's just totally ruined. It ruins the whole awareness of what ableism is as a whole
Mm-hmm.
group, where it discriminates people of all disabilities, whether you have autism, Down syndrome, epilepsy, all sorts of disabilities that I'm trying to still learn myself. And in a way, we're each trying to educate each other. And
Mm-hmm.
whether you're open to being educated or not, you have to be more involved with the world you're living in today, because it's not 1945, it's 2021.
Yep. Yeah. You know, and the disabled community, like I'm really happy that every kind of disability in the world speaks about other disabilities, because there's not just one disability. There's not just one. There are multiple. There are physical disabilities, there's invisible disabilities, there's mental disabilities. Like they're all different, and all of us experience ableism in some way. And you know, we're all fighting for each other to be like, okay, ableism in general is not okay. we're all disabled and there's nothing wrong with us. Hold on a second. My friend just messaged me right now. But yeah, so many different kinds of ableism that we just all need to speak about because it's gonna affect all of us, you know?
Exactly. And in a way, the shape of future that we want to live in for the kids and for everyone,
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm
we
just
got to keep in mind that the ableism is breed within people because people see something that's different, they think it's funny, and they try to use it for their widestream media in a way that just entertains them because people just look for entertainment and they think all these historic and horrific things that are not really funny are funny to them and they don't realize it.
I feel like people or like neurotypicals people who aren't disabled only care about ableism when it's convenient to them, when they'll get the attention and praise that they think they deserve or calling it out.
Exactly.
Which is messed up because I'm like, you realize you're not doing anything for us by doing that, right? Like if you're gonna call out ableism, you do all ableism. You don't pick and choose what's ableist because by picking and choosing, you're allowing ableism to still go through and it's still going to affect us.
Exactly. And till this day, we just got to keep on advocating and doing our own thing with spreading the word about ableism and autism and how it affects individuals on a daily basis.
Exactly.
And this is all we have to talk about, folks. And it's been a pleasure having you on my channel.
Yes, it has been really nice to talk about this, and I hope everyone who watches this at least resonates and knows that there is nothing wrong with being autistic, and you know, we all just have to stick together. We really all just have to stick together, and every autistic person's experience is different, but we do have one thing in common, and is that we're different, but we're perfect the way we are, and autism is a blessing. I honestly think it's a blessing.
Yes, it is. It could be a blessing on all ways that you look at it.
Yeah,
It's been honestly, it's been a really fun collaborating with you, and it's been a just amazing ride. And if y'all want to follow her TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube channel, the links will be below listed.
yes. I had a really fun time talking to you. Thank you so much for having me on here.
No problem. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Okay. I can stop the recording.